So hello everyone, my name is Jay Waghani and today I will going to demonstrate cultural perspective on academic integrity, authorship, knowledge traditions and post-colonial tensions. So here are academic and presentation details, table of content, research question. How does contemporary plagiarism policies reflect the Western individualist models of authorship and the what extent do they reproduce colonial hierarchies of knowledge within global academic institutions? Hypothesis. Contemporary academic integrity frameworks are not culturally neutral or universal acceptable or applicable. Rather they are historical rooted in Western individualist authorship models shaped by colonial and capitalist epistemologies. As a result, plagiarism policies often reproduce epistemic hierarchies that marginalize collective oral and non-Western knowledge traditions. A pluralistic and culturally responsive model of academic integrity grounded in epistemic justice would better address its global academic diversity. So initial one is academic integrity as a culturally situated. So Pennycook says that academic integrity is often shown or presented as a universal ethical standard, uh, uh, but uh, but definitions of plagiarism vary across its culture. That it is shows that your academic integrity is a universal, and but it is depends on culture, our culture and context, that how we can show it, see it. Plagiarism is not only a moral failure; it is also shaped by linguistic practices and academic discourses conventions. Uh, Textual borrowing dependence on the cultural idea of authorship, ownership, memory, and learning. Howard introduced the idea of a patching, which is like if we take any text from ChatGPT, then we cannot directly copy paste it in our work, but we should paraphrase it. And therefore, academic integrity is not neutral or fixed. It is socially and culturally constructed. Postcolonial theory framework. This framework is allows used to view plagiarism policies as a part of a broader colonial epistemologies rather than a neutral academic rules. So initial one is a post-colonial theory explain how modern system of knowledge, including academic institution, are historically happened by a colonial power and empire. As we all know that colonizers were not only rule on our land, they were also ruled on our language as well. Homike Bhabha introduced the concept of hybridity, that as we can see in India right now, that our language is not perfect. It's a hybrid language, like a mixing of language. And where Western people are promote to speaking for the subalterns or marginalized people, but they even not give chance to speak them. And here are three these critics who shows how colonial power structure influence language, literature, and institutional practices. Epistemic violence and subaltern knowledges. Gayatri Chakravarti Spiak introduced the concept of epistemic violence. This violence is not about body violence; it's about knowledge, violence of knowledge. And the subaltern cannot fully speak because institutions decide what counts as a legitimate knowledge and acceptable discourses. Fricker, she's explained that epistemic injustice about that. One is a native English Western person scholar, and one is from another country. But if they both are full knowledgeable, then also the native speaker will be promoted. Walter is argues that modernity in inseparable from the coloniality, meaning Western epistemologies remain globally dominant. Thus, plagiarism regulations can function as a site where knowledge hierarchies and colonial power structure as a reproduce. Sociology of the knowledge and authorship. Authorship is not a natural or a universal category. It is a historical and institutional construct shaped by modern knowledge system. Michel argues that author is an author fiction produced by discourses and system of power rather than an individual origin of meaning. Rolla Barthes uh, declares the death of the author, suggesting the texts are intertextual. Like in today's time, if someone is writing any book, then they should take any references from tradition or before generation. That's why it is texts are intertextual. And Bourdieu situates academic authority within the elite institutional structure where cultural capital determines legitimacy. Therefore, plagiarism rules rely on the socially produced ideas of the authorship, ownership, and academic legitimacy. Western individual authorship model. Western academic integrity is rooted in the romantic ideal of the author as an original genius, whose ideas are unique and individually owned. Matha is traces how modern copyright law emerges alongside capitalist idea of the individual ownership and the intellectual property. Rose argues that authorship is the legal inventions shaped by economic and property relation rather than a timeless concept. Because idea are treated as a private property, plagiarism is framed as a theft, a violation of ownership rights. This Western individual authorship model continues to dominate global academic standards today. So, collective and oral knowledge traditions. Many indigenous and non-Western knowledge systems emphasize relation and communal authorship, where knowledge belongs to the community rather than an individual. Linda Smith, she is a critic Western researches ethics and as colonial and extractive, often approaching indigenous knowledge into Eurocentric academic frameworks. Um, uh, Mari is argues for the nourishing indigenous learning spirit rather than forcing students Eurocentric models of the originality and the authorship. In oral tradition, repetitions, adaptations, and the storytelling are value a method of the transmitting knowledge across the generations. Like if we see in India, like Panchatantra stories and all those things were uh, says to next generation. This tradition challenges the Western assumptions that originality must always be individual and text-based. Page writing and intertextuality and cultural tensions. I have discussed this before. Page writing. Julia Kristiva introduced the concept of the intertextuality. I also discussed it. Colin, that multilingual students may face plagiarism accusations and due to the cultural and the linguistic difference, not deliberate deceptions. Western academic norms prioritize individual originality, creating tension for the student writing across his cultures. Okay. Coloniality of the knowledge and the citation politics. So Quizano introduced the concept of a coloniality of the power, arguing of the Eurocentrism continues to the structured global system of the knowledge and authority. Walter's call for the epistemic disobedience, urging the scholars of the resist Western academia dominance and the creative alternative knowledge frameworks. Sarah shows that citation is a political. Who we cite determines who knowledge is a value and institutionalized. Citation practices contributes to the canon for formalization and global hierarchies of the legitimacy, often privileges Western scholars. Thus, plagiarism regulations become the integrate with broader colonial structure of the knowledge recognition, global academic standards, and the internationalization. Internationalization has created a new global academic order where Western norms and the standard often the dominant policy and the practices in the universities worldwide. Higher education internationalization often exploits the plagiarism policies and the integrative frameworks. Okay, Simon is the emphasize about global conceptions and the higher education is a common good towards a pluralistic academic integrity should shift towards epistemic justice. These all things which I discussed before, that this way it can be improved. Okay, this is conclusion. Academic integrity is not a universal or an neutral standard, but a historically constructed framework rooted in Western ideas of individual authorship and uh, intellectual property. Viewed through the postcolonial and epistemic justice perspective, plagiarism policies can reproduce global knowledge hierarchies and by marginalizing communal and non-Western traditions. A more equitable model of the academic integrity must recognize these diverse epistemologies and the promote culturally responsive approaches to knowledge and writing. Here are references. Thank you. Now, if you have any questions, then you can ask.
Jai, my question is, why do international students face more plagiarism accusations?
So if we see is that some students are come from any country where there is a language is like matlab, language is they are memorizing and uh, they are also copying or some text and they put directly on their work, but in they don't know about Western universities rules about plagiarism. That's why they are uh, 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 that's why they are not able to understand all the systems, and it is normal in their country, but they are going for their present their work, but it can be plagiarized because of the rules, but it is not misunderstanding. It is uh, it is it, it is a misunderstanding. It is misunderstanding. It can be not plagiarized. Okay, next.
So, Jay, my question is, how do power and language interact in academic writing?
Uh, okay, in today's time, as we see, is that English is a very valuable language. It is used in every university and everywhere, every general and around the world. But some if some scholar is using native English, and then it can take attention. But if any person who is not from this country or he is using language, this language to shows his work to world, then it can be not fair, because if we see let me give you one example that if one Chinese person write something on his one on word and his idea is very good, but if he translated it into in English and trying to explain to all world, but some things are changed in this, they cannot perfectly write everything. So this way. Okay, this was from my side.